Hi, I'm Talia. I have 4 million followers across all my channels, and this is my business plan. So we're gonna start with me. A lovely photo, love it. I would say the biggest part of my business would be brand deals. We have this lovely, beautifully photoshopped photo there. Brand deals. And a little heart, because why not? I think we're actually gonna do it in orange. Let's make it a little bit cuter than just doing all the same color. It's a better pen as well. Okay, let's go. I would say brand deals makes up around 40% of my business. It's the highest percentage of all of them. It's actually one of my favorite parts. I really enjoy doing brand deals. I really like working with brands, and I think especially when brands give you the creativity to create something a little bit different to what you normally do. But essentially what it is they pay you to talk about something that they want you to talk about that hopefully you also like. That's kind of how I run it, but you know, maybe some people are different. I'd say my biggest partnerships were probably Pretty Little Thing. That was a really fun one because I got to like create and edit. It was a brand that I'd but I'd used and loved for so long. So when they approached me, it was like, this cannot be real. So my first ever brand deal was actually in 2016, which is when I kind of really properly started doing social media. It was for £20. And at the time, did I just do €1? It wasn't 20 euros, it was £20. I was so excited. I could not believe it was a hair mask. And I was like, I'm getting 20 quid to post about a product that I like. This is actually a cheat code. I genuinely was sat there and I was like, I cried. I was like, Mom, I just made £20. I was gassed. And yeah, that was my first one. If I had to think back to when that deal happened, I imagine I had around 20,000 followers, 30,000 followers. It was quite early on, but my Instagram was one of the first things to kind of take off before like my YouTube was. And yeah, I remember when I got the email, I was like, I think this is a scam, but I'm gonna say yes anyway. And it wasn't, I did get paid. I think getting to work with brands is more than just sort of the money that you're paid. It also helps shape you as a creator and as a business person as well, because for instance, we'll get onto it later, I have a jewelry brand, and I think working with people like Pretty Little Thing enabled me to be in a space where creativity and fashion was being put in front of me, and I could kind of see it firsthand and then go, okay, this is how I can apply this to myself as well. When I say 40% as well with brand deals, I'm actually including kind of another segment of brand deals, because you have the sort of brand partnerships, but I also have the side which is more presenting, and that's some of my favorite sort of brand work to do, because I like being, well, I guess you're being almost like the face for the brand, the voice for the brand, which I really enjoy. And it's less about posting on your platforms and more about integrating into their platform. And one of my favorite ones that I did, I think because it was so specific to me, was working with the Ivors, which is a songwriting award show. They wanted someone to do presenting on Twitch of a music award show. Enter Talia. I loved doing that because I was like, as a songwriter and a Twitch streamer, I was like, this could not be more perfect. I had the best time. And I think getting to do that was just, oh my goodness. Forever grateful. So that's my brand section done. Now my second biggest income, this bad boy, YouTube. This makes up around, I think about 30% of my income. And this is kind of split between, I have my main channel, which I started technically in like 2011, but those videos do not exist. So we're gonna put 2011 and a little shh, because no one needs to know that. But actually 2016 is kind of when everything got going. I actually had a tweet go viral doing makeup, and that's kind of how I started a follower base. And then I moved over to YouTube and did makeup tutorials. Makeup's where I started. CPM is kind of where you make your money on YouTube, which is adverts. So YouTube places the adverts for you. I don't choose what goes on there. They have a really good algorithm that kind of looks at your audience base and goes, this is what they'll like, this is what we're gonna put there. And then you get a CPM based on really how niche you are, how long your videos are. Depending on the channel, my main channel actually has a much lower CPM than my second channel. So I have two, and she's the one who actually makes me more money, hilariously. And the content on there is nowhere near as good. But it's fine. So my main channel, like I said, started off in makeup. I then moved to kind of lifestyle. At the time that I moved to lifestyle, CPM on YouTube still wasn't what it is now. So at the time, getting a $1 CPM or a $2 CPM was like quids in, you were gassed, like that was the goal. Now, in Max Fosh's video, he spoke about the fact he had a $3 CPM and he was like, that's not that good. At the time, that would have been like, oh my goodness, whereas now you can get channels with like $15, $20 CPM. It changes drastically, but at the time, I was happy with a $1 $1, $2 CPM. I was like, wow, this is crazy. I'm making money posting stupid videos. It was literally like me finding Halloween outfits and trying them on or doing try on hauls. And then that actually transitioned into my music channel, which to be honest was always my business goal. As soon as I saw YouTube kind of becoming something for me, I was like, this is how I'm gonna push my music. My channel was called Talia My Music, even though I was posting makeup and then lifestyle. I knew eventually it was going to turn to music. We don't talk about the CPM for those because it is basically non-existent. The way I make money from music, we'll talk about later, but it's not through YouTube. I would probably estimate the CPMs probably something like 10 to 50 cents. It's similar to what you'd probably get on like a short. My channel basically on the back end is a music channel, which is different to a creator channel. So I actually had to transition that with YouTube to integrate with something called Vivo. So it was a whole process. When I signed to my label, I had to make the decision, like, do I want to basically kill this channel's CPM and its searchability in regular videos for the sake of music? And I decided yes, because I had my second channel and I knew that that was where I was going to post my other content, which started off as just gaming, which I love and I have loved since day one. But she has now transitioned into a reaction channel, which, do you know what, is a cheat code. I get to watch my husband's videos and I get paid for it. So it feels like fraud somehow. I know it's not, but it just feels illegal. But that's actually now makes up the majority of my YouTube earnings. And I just get to watch my husband, so slay. When we're talking about actual figures, I'd say my highest earning video on YouTube is probably around $12,000, which I've just written $12. Do you know what, there you go, no one needs to know. For me, insane, but when you look at some other people's earnings on YouTube, they can earn some insane numbers. But when you think about the content that I'm posting, seems illegal. So it's not necessarily one specific video that earned this. It's kind of like the ceiling of what I've reached. A few videos have done this. When it comes to the specifics, who knows? There'll be a reaction that's done that. There'll be a video on my main channel that's done that. And we've never broken that, but my life is young. We shall carry on. And when it comes to brand partnerships, my highest paid brand partnership was 6 figures. Genuinely, like when I remember getting that through and I sat there and I was like, there must be a typo, like this is not, there's just no way. I had just never seen money like that before. It's just, I didn't grow up with it. So it's new to me and it still feels new. I was very excited, still am. So even though my gaming channel, my second channel makes more, technically my main channel's bigger. I think my main channel's at around 1 million subscribers and my second channel's 460-ish thousand. I think the best thing about my second channel is that I actually film all the content live over on my next section, Twitch. Twitch is a fun one and Twitch has been a bit of a journey. I actually started streaming on YouTube. I'm gonna write streaming here and I'm gonna do a little purple thingy here because this is where I began. I decided to change over to Twitch, I think in 2019, and immediately there was a 400% revenue increase in the first month and I changed nothing. I streamed the same amount of hours, I streamed the same game, I streamed with the same people. It was literally just a platform change. That was one of the biggest, not wake up calls, but biggest lessons for me because it made me realize the content that you post needs to be on the right platform. And the difference ended up being a 20,000% revenue increase by the 5th month, I think it was. The one thing I will say that did change, that did make the 20,000 was COVID. When that hit, obviously, streaming, the hours that people were watching, everyone was at home, people were off, so they had more time. And you could see such a big increase in that. And I think I was just streaming around the right time. I moved from a lesser platform to a better platform for that specific thing. And the difference was just insane. Twitch actually makes up around 15% of my total income. YouTube has definitely upped their game with streaming recently. And that's why everyone I think is multi-streaming now. There's definitely so much credit to doing that. Where my React sits on YouTube, that's the main thing. So I stream on Twitch, I post it on YouTube, and then I get the best of both worlds because YouTube know how to do video. Twitch revenue is actually broken down into so many different things. I guess the main thing would be subs. And the way that works is you basically get a percentage of the sub that people pay. Now, the average price of a sub is around £5, depending on what country you're in. And also the split that you get depends on your deal with Twitch. Most people are on 50-50, or you can be on 70-30 up to £100,000 a year. After that, you then back down to 50-50. I'm on 70-30. But you might think, okay, that means I get whatever percentage of £5. That's not the case because it also depends on where people are subbing from and the conversion rate and all of that. So for some subs, I might get £2, £3. For some subs, I might get 40p. And there's no real way of seeing that in the back end of Twitch. You can't actually tell. That ends up being the majority of the money that you make. Well, actually, I guess it kind of depends on the month. Subs are a good percentage of it. Then you have built-in ads, and that is kind of the same as YouTube, where Twitch play ads on your channel. I have no control over what they are. You can kind of pick how often ads show, and obviously the more you show ads, the more money you make, but then people might not want to watch you because it's kind of jarring. There's also an option to have pre-roll ads. I turn this on and off depending on what I'm doing. If I'm expecting an influx of people and I'm doing a stream where I'm going to be on front page, I will turn pre-roll off because I want people to come in. I don't want to be hit with an ad. If I'm just doing a normal stream, maybe I'll keep pre-rolls on. There's also something called bits, which is basically Twitch's in-platform currency. Streamers actually make the full amount of bits, so the consumer pays the percentage to Twitch. It's in the streamer's interest because we don't have that money taken off, whereas obviously subs, we might see, oh, we've got 1,000 subs. That doesn't mean you're making £5,000. That's not at all how it works. And in some countries, you might make way less than in other countries. So within Twitch themselves, they actually also do incentives. You guys might have seen it if you watch Twitch, that sometimes there'll be like a 35% off, or you might have September where you get, it's different every year, but a few years ago it was 2-for-1 subs. Sometimes it's a percentage off gifted subs. Sometimes it's a percentage off all subs. Also, as a streamer, we have an option in the back end to add a discount onto our stream. It's around 7 streams a year or something, but they do accumulate. There's also third-party things that you can use. So for instance, sound alerts. Essentially, it just equates to bits, but it's an incentive for the viewer to use and they get something out of it. I actually did a subathon myself. I did a 2-week, I think I did 13 days, and I ended up on 14,000 subscribers, which was ridiculous, but also I was losing my mind. I was live 24/7. I slept on stream, but I pixelated my camera because I sleepwalk, and we're terrified of what could have happened there. A subathon basically involves your chat subbing to increase the timer on your stream. I capped my subathon at 2 weeks because when you do an uncapped subathon, realistically it could go on forever, which, okay, great, you might make loads of money, but also you will die on your stream, so not a good place to be. I think I had mine set for every single sub added either 30 seconds or a minute to the timer, and then every single day I did sections of the day where it was like, now subs are worth double the time. And then for certain sub goals I also did challenges, so I did like an ice bath, I dyed my hair, I cut my extensions out. I basically lost the plot live on stream for 13 days straight. That ended up being really lucrative, and I did that to fund, actually, probably my next section, which is music. So this is gonna be a fun one. And I'd say this makes up around 8% of my total revenue. One thing I will say with music is expensive, which is why we do a lot of these other things to fund this one. I used to be signed to a record label and I left them last year, decided to go independent because I wanted more control. I think having all of these other revenue streams that are completely in my control, I'm hyper aware of the lack of control there is in music, and I was just not having it. So we left. That does not come without expense. Last year, after leaving, I looked at one of the singles I wanted to release. She's not come out yet, and you're about to see why. And they told me it was gonna cost $30,000 just to get the song from the producer. I would say earning from music is probably the most complicated of all my revenue streams. There's multiple ways you can learn. You can earn from live, you can earn from royalties in songwriting, you can earn from the royalties of the master, so master royalties, and then obviously brand deals can kind of go into music videos, you can post on YouTube your music videos, even Twitch, like it kind of spreads across everything, but the way these work is quite intricate and complicated, and depending on whether you have an association that collects your royalties for you or whether you do it all manually, kind of changes how things work as well. For me, the majority of my music income is probably from master royalties because I own the masters now that I'm independent. I make the highest profit off of those. Songwriting royalties, I also make on my own music, but also if I write for other people, I make the songwriting royalties from that. So that's also kind of another revenue stream. And then live, again, now I'm independent. Live shows cost so much money. It's actually mental. Obviously, when you think about how many tickets you sell and how much the tickets cost, you might be able to work out someone's making 20, 30, 40 grand from that show, or 10, 15, however much the tickets cost. For instance, I did 2 shows last year and they cost me altogether between 25 and 30K, so we'll say 27. That's just the cost. You've got to pay the tour manager, you've got to pay the sound engineer, you've got to pay the musicians for the time at the show and also all of the rehearsals. You then got to pay for all the rehearsal space and however many days that takes, all the equipment, hire for every single day of rehearsals. So rehearsals might take 5-6 days, and every single one of those days you're paying for everyone's time, you're paying for all of the equipment, which is so expensive to hire the entire time. It stays in that room 24/7 for 5 days. Then you've got to pay for all the moving of the equipment to the venue for it to be stored. There's just so many costs for a show. And obviously the more staff you have, the more it costs there as well. And then, you know, your rider, food for staff, drinks, all of that. 2 shows, one in London, one in Manchester, and it costs nearly £30,000 just to put on. So you can imagine, depending on how you do live, you actually might not make that much money. However, the key is merch. This is why so many musicians sell merch at their shows and online, because this is one of the more lucrative things that you can do that doesn't have the highest expense. Where music, clearly, I'm talking about one single 30 grand, 2 shows, another 30 grand. You're 60K in the hole and you've put out 1 song and done 1 show. So it's an expensive career. To break down what you actually earn from music is quite difficult. For instance, this song here, Letter to an Idiot, this is gonna shock you because of how incredible the cover is. I made that. Whoa, no way, Talia, that looks so professional. I did the video at home, I edited it, I directed it, I used all my friends. So for that song, I actually made money on the master royalty. Whereas for other songs, you might pay for the artwork, the video, the PR, the promotion, the marketing. As much as you're making money on paper, you suddenly then realize, oh, but all of this is gone, so actually, no, I haven't made any money on it. When it comes to actual breakdown, I'd say, including merch, it probably works out to be like 80% of my music income is merch. And then the rest is probably split fairly evenly between the other 3. When I look back at sort of like my most successful songs, Stay the Night, for instance, went to number 11 in the charts. It has over 100 million streams, but I don't actually make any money off royalties on that because I was paid almost like a session fee. That's not why I did the song. The song did so much for my career, but didn't make me loads of money. And I think sometimes with music, it's a bit of, you have to pick one or the other. Like, am I doing this for the cash? Or am I doing this for the love of the music? But yeah, looking back at my time at a label, you know, the way that it works with money and when you're signed is you get something called an advance, which is a lump sum of money, and you get that depending on what you do. So let's say you're signed for an album, you might get the first lump sum when you do your first single, the second lump sum when you release your second single, and then the final lump sum when you've done your album. This is like a super basic version, but let's say they've spent £100,000 on your advance. You think, okay, great. After I've paid that 100,000 back, because obviously that's not a gift, it's a loan. Once you've paid that 100,000 back through your royalties, then brilliant, you're making money. No, because they're also spending money on you. So let's say they spend £100,000 on your advance, another 100,000 on your album, another 100,000 on all your marketing for the couple years that you've been signed and all that. That's £300,000 that you've got to then pay back, but you only get 20% of the royalties. So 20% of the earnings that you get go back to pay that 300,000. And then once that's all paid back, then you get 20% of what you're earning. So technically, while I was signed, I didn't actually make any money outside of the advance because obviously it never got paid back because it's just kind of how it works. So as much as I've written merch under music, it definitely is kind of its own thing because it probably makes up around 5% of my revenue stream, because as much as I use it in music, it also is linked to everything else. And I did it before I even released half of the music that I've released. I actually started my merch by myself in my house. We kind of supplied everything at home. We sourced it all. We packed it all at home. I think it was me and my mum just sat in our living room, like packing it all up. I designed it all on Photoshop, ordered everything, got the prints, and then we sold it. And I think my first ever drop, we sold a few hundred. It was years ago now. I don't really remember exactly how much, but it was so exciting. I couldn't believe it. People were just buying t-shirts with like my design on it. And it's basically the Martian Club is what we call ourselves. And that's kind of just changed throughout the years. I then moved into having a company sort of help me and do it. And then my last drop, I worked with a company, but actually I did all the designs. I had like a teddy bear in it, and I sat and I drew the teddy bear. It took me a good few hours because I am not an artist, but it's just a fun way to sort of like help supplement things like the music career, but also have something that's kind of like everyone in your community can share. And it's exciting and it's fun, and like, especially when you're designing it yourself, it's exactly what you envisage everyone to be wearing in your little army. So my first drop was in 2018, and since then I've done 3 drops. I think each time has been vastly different. The first one, all the revenue went straight to me. There was no percentage splits. Obviously, as time went on, we ended up splitting because I then didn't have to pack, I didn't have to do the orders, I didn't have to do the website, because even the website at the beginning, I had to design it and make it myself. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was fine. We figured it out. The second drop, I think, was 70%-ish to me. And then my last drop was about 30%. Obviously, a huge decrease, but the manpower, again, massively decreased for me. You gotta figure out what's more important to you. I'd say the middle ground was probably where the sweet spot was, and this we won't be doing again. For that last drop, I think we did sell about 1,500 units, which was insane, and it was the biggest drop we'd done. Hopefully, we will do some more. Looking at the page, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but next we have TikTok in this tiny little space here. To be fair, TikTok does only make up 2%, so it's okay that it's a smaller area because she is a smaller piece of the pie. TikTok is kind of a relatively new way of making money, and it's also definitely not as lucrative video-wise as YouTube, for instance. It kind of works in the same way. It does have a CPM, but you're looking at like maybe 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents a video. However, TikTok Shop does also exist. You basically get a percentage if you add a link to your video of that item that's sold. So let's say you have an item on for £10, you make 10% would be actually quite a lot, but you make £1 for each sale and 100 people buy it, you make £100. Pretty simple, but that's how it works, TikTok Shop. And obviously you can have videos go super viral with links attached that you can make crazy money from. I don't do that much because it's kind of not really my forte. But I know people that have made like 40 grand on a video, 30 grand on a video. Literally people who don't even have a following just because their video's gone viral with that product. So it can be insanely lucrative. I actually have 2 TikTok accounts. I have one that is my main, and then I have a makeup one as well. I actually started this makeup one because of brand deals. A portion of my brand deals do go on TikTok. My main TikTok, because of my Twitch, because of my React, because of my gaming, has a more male-centered audience. When I do makeup videos on my main channel, that is still a skewed number, whereas people who watch makeup tend to be skewed female. I started a new channel where now it's like 90% women, so that if a brand wants a female audience, I have a platform for that. So it kind of all interlinks, and as much as I do make money from CPM and TikTok Shop, the majority of my TikTok income actually is brand deals and is in this section. There's also a third income stream on TikTok, which is live. I don't do this so much anymore, but I did go through a period of live streaming. The way you make money from that is kind of similar to Twitch. It's donation based. It's almost like they're in platform currency, which is filters. People can pay to put filters on and you get a percentage of that money. TikTok is a little bit cheeky though. So the way that it works, you have to live stream and earn a certain amount to make that money. When I streamed on TikTok, don't know what I made at the time, but I've got around £2,000, £3,000 in that account. I can't get more than £100 out at a time because I've not streamed in so long. And they're like, oh, you need to make this much money in one go to increase the amount that you're allowed to withdraw. So I could technically sit and withdraw, I think it's daily maybe, I think maybe it's like $75 a day or $100 a day. I could sit and withdraw $100 a day, but I actually can't access all of the money in one go unless I live stream and make more money. It's a bit of a techie one, it's a bit of a weird one, which is why I actually stopped live streaming on there because I also have a baby and I don't have the time to do that. So we do this. And last but not least, my final kind of source of income, kind of not, is Lara. Now this is a jewelry business that I run with my mum and my sister. And why I say sort of income, sort of not, is because right now I don't take any money out of the business. So she's technically a big old zero because she's a new business. I always talk about things as she. I don't know why I do that, but Lara is new. We've run Lara for 2 years. I actually joined last year. So my mum and my sister set the business up. I then kind of noticed things that I would do differently, and maybe on the creative side, I was like, but you have a skill that I don't have. You have a skill that I don't have. I think I have a skill that you don't have. I pitched myself to them. I then invested in the business. We take small dividends, but I don't take money really out of the business. I have a lot of faith in this brand and completely separate to all of my other things. Obviously, I promote it with my YouTube, with my TikTok, my Twitch, I talk about it, but it runs kind of separately to these other entities. You know, in our second year, we turned a profit, which in business is really quite rare. And obviously we did have a bit of a leg up with kind of the YouTube side of things, but they actually started it, like I said, without me. So I kind of just swooped in and thought, I see a little something here, and I think it's fun to invest in businesses outside of just an investment that you kind of like, you have an investment portfolio, okay, you might invest in things, you put that money away and then you see if it does anything. You kind of have no attachment to the business. You have no real also pull or say in what that money does. Whereas when it's a business that I'm kind of running somewhat, I actually have potential to make the income do its thing rather than just hope Well, hopefully the stocks increase on that. Hopefully that increases. Whereas this is like, okay, if it's not, how can we do this? What's the strategy? How do we change that? And how do we turn it into something? So we've sold over 13,000 pieces so far. And actually this year we've over doubled our revenue, I think, compared to last year, which as a small business and as a new business is really, really good. We actually have our first ever pop-up shop opening on the 13th and 14th of December in Charlotte Street, Fitzrovia, which I'm so excited about. It has been quite a challenge. It's very expensive to set up. It's a whole thing. But what we've learned with this is you have to spend money to make money in business sometimes, and scary, but so far, so good. This is what my business looks like right now, but there are a few things that I want to expand and change on. Like for instance, on YouTube, I'd like to actually start a third channel where I upload the rest of my VODs and things from Twitch, because why not? Music is always going to be ever changing, and I think we want more live, maybe sooner rather than later. Basically everything but more. Streaming also, now that I've got a baby, has changed a little bit, so I need to streamline this a little bit more and figure out how that's going to look. And the streams that I do actually do, I prefer now to be a little bit less off the cuff, and they have a little bit more structure to them. You know what, I'm just going to write organize. This is wishful thinking. And then also Lara, hopefully that one continues to grow. We can start taking dividends. We can start seeing a return on investment. So I started with makeup originally, and then I restarted my makeup channel back on TikTok recently. And I think a lot of people have asked about like makeup lines, or like, is that something you'd be interested in? And if there is something that I can think of that is needed in the space, 100%. I never want to start something for the sake of it. But I think makeup and perfume are two things that I would love to look at more, whether it's branding and whether it's collabing with a brand and creating a product or doing my own thing. We'll see. But it's definitely something I've thought of. I don't think I'm ever gonna stop doing merch. It's just as and when. I think my next drop, again, I really want to design myself, and I wanna make sure it's with the right company and with the right people, but I've already started thinking about what that might look like, and whether it comes with the music, I think we'll try and tie hand in hand. Outside of the jewelry investment, I do have money in pension, and I have spoken about investing in other things, and I have done it before. I prefer to invest in companies that are startup or that are more interesting, rather than a case of just investing in stocks or something that's a little bit more detached, which can be a little more complicated and a little bit more nuanced. Something kind of separate to all of this, which is something I've spoken about online a lot, I'm gonna put on here because I want to do it, and if I put it on here, then I'm manifesting it, and that is voice acting. I've spoken about this loads on my stream, and I've had a few videos go viral for certain voices and things like that, and I think that is something I really want to utilize. I'm Talia, and this has been my business plan.